Yeah. Yeah, what's going on? Party people, the place to be. I go by the name of the BK Apologist, transmitting all the way live. New York is the city. Brooklyn is the borough. What's good? What's popping? It's Monday, another start of another work week. I hope everybody was able to do what they needed to do today and got everything they needed accomplished done. Of course, want to just shout out the party people that are in the place to be. We got my man Rome G in the house. We got Bodega Leader Miss Titus 2, Bodega Lady. We got D New. We got Jay Parker. We got the real American Mr. Phil Fox. Make sure you catch me and him on Sunday at 4 on my channel. We're definitely going to be chopping it up. It's going to be very informative. Of course, we have the indelible, the incomparable Nate 2D2 in the building. We got Taylor Lott in the house. What's going on? You know, we got some people here. I hope everybody's doing well. You know, right now, Mr. Malone is feeding his dog. He'll be right with us in a moment. You know, he's very domesticated like that. You know what I mean? So, yeah, so I hope everybody's doing pretty good. It's going to be a very interesting video. You know, Mr. Reza Islam, for those who don't know, he is a member and spokesperson for the Nation of Islam. And, you know, very popular, you know, very smart guy, very sharp, you know, very charismatic, has a very huge platform. And it's because of that, you know, he's very influential. He has the ear of the youth. And unfortunately, you know, Mr. Islam says a lot of things that are just not correct. And from time to time, you know, we tend to take a visit and peruse his claims and do some fact checking, you know. And as Ms. Titus 2 says, Reza Islam is straight. That's with the number 8, straight tripping, right? So we're definitely going to deal with him. And of course, you know, if we're going to talk about, wow, with Phil Fox, man, you're an amazing guy. Wow. My 2 favorite guys on the same show. Big up. Big up to you, Mr. Phil Fox. You are amazing, man. So, yeah. So, of course, you know, if we're going to talk about Islam, you know, I got to bring in one of the most trained apologists when it comes to the subject matter. And, of course, I'm talking about Mr. Vocab Malone. What's going on, sir?
What's up, man? That's high praise. I appreciate that. I don't know if it's true, but I'm with it.
And even before we continue, something I've said in private, I want to say in public, and I don't think people know how much of an inspiration Vocab has been to me in this channel. So to tell you the origin of basically the BK Apologist, last summer, Vocab, David Wood, Sam Shamoon, Adam Coleman, they all came to New York to Frank Turek's apologetic. What was it called again? Vocab?
The Christians in Action or Apologetics. It's Frank Turek's training, CIA.
Right, exactly.
yeah, exactly. Getting that CIA training.
And it was dope because, you know, at that time, you know, I was posting up a couple of things I've done in my church, you know, but nothing really consistent or serious. So I finally met these guys for the first time. Thank you, Nate. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm trying to step up. You know what I mean? So I finally met these guys for the first time, and it was really great. We got to see a debate with Dr. Brown versus Rabbi Shmuley. That was fun. And, you know, just showing them around the city, you know, going to Times Square. Was that the first time going to Times Square, Vocab?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's my first. I got family in Buffalo, so the Italian side of my family is from the Buffalo area. Okay. So I've been there. I've been upstate Jamestown, Buffalo. I've never been to the city until last year, though.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, and you know, just really getting to hang out with them, and on the train going to the 40 Deuce. Well, that's what we call 42nd Street in New York, 40 Deuce.
Getting all technical on, bro.
Yeah, I mean. And Vocab was like, man, you know, there's an opportunity for you to really create a lane for yourself, you know, because there's not really a lot of urban apologists online from New York, you know, and you can really use New York as a backdrop to your online ministry. And, you know, I took it to heart. And it was from that time that the BK Apologist basically was born. And This month, is it this month that you came? Was it August when you guys came last year?
Yeah, it was about a year ago. Yeah.
So it's been a year now, and I've been consistent, and putting out content and just, really appreciating the right hand of fellowship that Vocab is and Adam Coleman and so many of you have given me, such a short time. And I just want to say, publicly, Vocab, I just want to say thank you for doing that for me, and I really appreciate it.
Well, I mean, man, well, I don't want to say I'm speechless, but I mean, I appreciate you and thank you for saying that. And, what I saw and noticed was true. So, when I pulled you aside or however, it was just sort of words from the heart. And sometimes, all of us need that, like a friend to kind of say, hey, and then, do you want to listen? Do you want to do it? It depends, whatever. So right. I think it's really cool that since then, it's crazy how much, since then it's like night and day. Like when I visited you last year till now, it's crazy to see. So like, praise God. And if I can be a part of that anyway, I'm amped for that. So praise God for that, man.
Thank you. So the reason why we are here today is we're going to speak on it's actually a very short video that Risa Islam did on his Instagram page. And he's basically caping for Beyonce. Now, caping is a urban colloquialism, meaning like defending or sticking up for someone, And as we all know, Beyonce recently just did this video album called Black is King. And within that album, there's a lot of African syncretism going on. And he basically, for the most part, defends it, which is very odd to see someone from the NOI do that. And we're definitely going to touch more on that. So before I even run the video, Vocab, like what was your initial response or reaction when you first saw it?
I felt like his reaction, to use a phrase, was very reactionary. Almost like for whatever reason, he's developed as a Nation of Islam member, some kind of affinities towards African spiritualities. And so he took umbrage or offense at people pointing out the paganism latent in Beyonce's new material. But I'm sitting there thinking, I don't think he mentioned Christians, but it's like, the world ain't caring. They're just finding a good show. They're not concerned about polytheism being present in their entertainment. Disney Plus certainly doesn't care. And I don't think all the soccer moms and their kids know what's happening either. So it seems like he's really taking a shot at Christians, because those are the ones kind of, and not even all Christians, Lord knows, but, sounding the alarm. So it seems like a reaction towards people pointing that out. And it's funny because he seems to switch the argument later on, and we're going to get into this, to sort of just talking about white culture co-opting and taking things. He's conflating like Christians with just white culture, but that, that's a mistake too. And then he makes this response that's not even relevant to his initial reaction. So I found it to be frank, disjointed, confused, and even illogical, because I don't see the logical connections between his opening statement and the way he wound down the video. But I do have one compliment for the video. He managed to squeeze a lot in perfectly at that 59-second mark, meaning, he got everything he wanted to get in right there perfectly. So I do compliment on being able to get a lot of bad ideas into a short amount of space.
Yeah, he seems to have a great aptitude for that. Rapid fire falsehoods, It does with a lot of gloss and polish as well. So with that being said, let's show the people what we're talking about. All right. All right. So everybody, okay. All right, cool. So let's play it.
Peace, family, brother Risa. So I'm here. I just have to break this down because I've been seeing a lot of things. And I said, let me go ahead and stop allowing people to Europeanize and take virtually everything that belongs to us. I find it interesting that everything that has to do with African spirituality, they have to make it look evil and demonic. Then after that, they steal it and make it their own. Risa, whatever do you mean? I'm glad you asked. Case and point. You all love Thor. Oh, yes, the Europeanized version of the African god of thunder and lightning by the name of Shango. Yep, you stole it. Wolverine. Oh, yes, the Europeanized version of the African god by the name of Ogun, the god of war, iron, and metal. Yep, you stole that too. You even Europeanized Batman. Oh, yes, good old Bruce Wayne. No, it's actually Camazotz, the ancient mythological Mayan bat god. Camazotz literally means Death Bat stole that too. Crazy, because you even have some people out here thinking that Beyonce was depicting the ancient goat god of 1307 of the Knights Templars named Baphomet, satanic god, but she was actually depicting the ancient Egyptian or Kemetic god by the name of Hathor or Het Heru, the mother of all mothers, the god of love, music, beauty, etc. Not European, African. Peace, family, brother, reason I'm here. I just had to break this down because I've been seeing a lot.
So that is the video.
We might have to play that again at some point here because there's a lot to keep track of, even though I've seen it several times. We'll see. We'll see, though. Right.
Absolutely. So let me share my screen. What's up?
I don't know. The Batman one's the main one. You know.
Yeah, we're gonna have fun with that one.
Stuff for that.
We're gonna have fun with that one, buddy.
Lordy.
So the first thing we want to do, because we really want to use this as a teaching lesson for everyone, that, you know, correlation does not imply causation, right? It refers to the inability to legitimately deduce a cause and effect relationship between two variables solely on the basis of an observed association or correlation between them. And this is what he does completely throughout the video. He does this, he tries to force a causation from this alleged correlations of these different deities. And I just want to give you an example in history of how, you know, just because there's similarities to things doesn't mean that one caused the other. And of course, what I'm talking about here is a book that came out. It's called The Wreck of the Titan or Futility by Morgan Robertson. This book came out about 12 to 14 years prior to the sinking of the SS Titanic. And when you look at the book and you look at the actual history, there's some eerily similar situations here. For instance, it says the similarities between Robertson's book and the Titanic disaster are so astounding that one has to imagine if White Star Line built Titanic to Robertson's specs as a dare. For one, both the Titan and the Titanic had too few lifeboats to accommodate every passenger on the board. The Titan carrying as few as the law allowed, while Robertson decided to be generous and include 4 lifeboats more on his ship than Titanic. It's an odd point to bring up when you consider that lifeboats had nothing to do with the story. Beyond the name, the similarities between the Titanic and the fictional Titanic include both were triple screwed propellers, described as unsinkable. The Titanic was the world's largest luxury liner, 882 feet, displacing 63,000 long tons, and was once described by newspapers as being practically unsinkable. The Titan was the largest craft afloat and the greatest of the works of men, 800 feet, displacing 75,000 tons, up from 45,000 in the 1998 edition, and was considered unsinkable. Struck an iceberg moving at 22.5 knots. The Titanic struck an iceberg on the starboard side of the night of April 14th, 1912 in the North Atlantic, 400 miles away from Newfoundland. Also, on April night in North Atlantic, 400 miles from Newfoundland, the Titan hit an iceberg while traveling at 25 knots, also on the starboard side. So the unsinkable Titanic sank, and more than half of her 2,200 passengers and crew died. The indestructible Titan also sank. More than half of her 2,500 passengers drowning. Went down bow first. The Titan actually capsizing before it sank. Right? Super similarities. But you could not say that the Titanic, that the book was like prophesying the sinking of this book. I mean, of the ship in real life. There's just no way. Though there are some amazing similarities between the two, one didn't cause the other. You want to say anything real quick, Vocab?
Yeah, I mean, even that, what you're saying there, which is certainly true, is being charitable, because there's sort of a level of like we might be granting that there's some correlation even between these comic book characters he brought up, right, and African deities he's talking about. Because I'm not convinced just because you show pictures and say that one is from the other that that's the case. I'm not convinced that that's the case at all. And right. So even if it was the case, though, that you don't, it doesn't. You got the problem that you're bringing up. So it's a mess, because remember, this is a strange way, in my view, to defend Beyonce.
Right.
Remember, the video starts out him being upset about people calling out paganism and Beyonce, and all of a sudden it switched to Stolen Legacy type thing.
Right.
But yeah, it was
right. So now we're gonna go into the actual forced alleged correlations and causations that he made in his video. So the first thing we're gonna look at is he mentions Shango. Right now, in the Encyclopedia of African Religion, it says that the ancestral Shango was the fourth king of the town of Oyo. Oral tradition describes him as a powerful, with a voice like thunder and a mouth that spewed fire when he spoke. When a subordinate chief challenged his rule, many townspeople were impressed by the subordinate's feats of magic and deserted Shango. Shango left Oyo and committed suicide by hanging himself. His faithful followers, however, claimed that he really ascended to the heavens on a chain. They claimed that his disappearance was not death, but merely the occasion of his transformation into an Orisha. He later took on some of the attributes of a pre-existing deity, Jakuta, who represented the wrath of God and whose name continues to be associated with Shango, and Cuban Laurent Scranton, independent researcher. His contributions to Sage Publications, Encyclopedia of African Religion.
So Shango had a voice like thunder?
Right.
My name is Shango. I've got a voice like thunder and a mouth that spews fire.
Yeah, and it's funny. We had a conversation earlier a while ago. Me and Volcan. We was talking about how a lot of these salsa records from like the 70s, they talk about Shango a lot. You know what I mean? So before there was a Beyonce, there was Fania Records, there was Hector Lavoe, Eddie Palmieri. They've been talking about Shango, so she's kind of like a Johnny come lately to this. But anyway, and we might do a video about that some other time. But
yeah, she. Well, did you say she? Because it's a him.
I mean Shango. I'm talking about. Yeah. You're right. It's a he.
But yeah, you know, I got that. I was talking to our friend Abu, and he was like, "Oh yeah, you know, Beyonce's doing this, but the old salsa singers were doing that before her." And then I talked to you about it, and you're like, "Oh yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing." But I don't know if people caught it back then. Or I don't. Where's the ruckus about it? I guess is maybe it's kind of like just part of the fun or something. Maybe just because that stuff wasn't on Disney Plus, nobody noticed.
Right. I mean, it wasn't a visual representation, and it was always. I mean, for me, growing up in Brooklyn, like this is music I listened to growing up in my parents' house, you know, and it was just part of the background noise of my adolescence, you know. So it wasn't too much later on. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, some things going on here, you know. So, but right off the bat, even before we do any kind of compare and contrast between this guy and Thor, what kind of God is this to even worship? It's a whole spin project. The man was a chief. Another chief bowed to him. He used some magic or whatever. He beat him in this rap battle. He gets upset, runs away, and hangs himself. And his followers is like, they got to clean it up. It's like, our hero just took the coward way out. So they spin the story like, oh no, he transcended. And now he's one of those, and people brought into it. And here we are today. Right? That's crazy. So even without the comparisons, it makes no sense to subscribe to this guy. I mean, he was an actual historical person who was deified, but the deification was a spin on his cowardice. I'm like, that's so crazy. But anyway, the founding of Old Oyo is generally attributed to Ora Namain, an Ife prince. The empire was established in about the 14th century with its capital at Oyo Ari. Oya Mayan was succeeded by his son, Ajaka, who consolidated the achievements of his father by fortifying the empire. Although the establishment of a strong army, Akaja was succeeded by his brother Shango, who moved the capital from Oya to Oyo. Now, right? That's not, right off the bat, you already know this is not like Thor at all, right? But if you want to play the game of, well, because he, you know, if he came before Thor, then Thor was a ripoff of Shango, you're gonna have a problem with that too, because this guy appeared in the 14th century. Now watch this.
That's the earliest.
That's the earliest attestation of Shango's 14th century.
I didn't realize it was like that's going to be a major problem for his theory, because I already know I already know what's next. You about to drop the hammer on him.
Basically, the first recorded instance of the name of the god appears in the migration period, where a piece of jewelry, a fibula of the Northendorf fibula, dating from the 7th century AD and found in Bavaria, bears an elder foothark inscription that contains the name Ponar, i.e. Donar, the Southern Germanic form of Thor, name Shamik Rudolph, Dictionary of Northern Mythology. So now we already told you that you can't do, correlation isn't causation. But if you're actually playing that game, you lose here, because then we can say that Shango is a ripoff of Thor. Just saying.
Yeah, I mean,
bad argument, but if that's the argument you're going to use, and that's the methodology that you're using, well, it backfires for you right here.
Yeah, because if you got one before the other, what are you going to do there?
Right. And here's the thing, gods of thunder. I mean, there are multiple gods that have, that same attribute throughout the world, throughout history. And to say that one caused the other, it's not good thinking.
So the first one was supposed to be Wolverine, right?
No, that was Shango and Thor.
Okay. So Shango and Thor, my bad.
Right.
So Shango and Thor, I forgot we haven't done the Wolverine yet.
Right.
So when you look at this, here's what's bizarre, because he's like, hey, I see people complaining about paganism in Beyonce's video, and meanwhile you take all of the stuff from Africa while calling the traditions there bad, and then gives Thor as an example. Yo, there are multiple accounts about Christian missionaries as they went into Northern Europe, where Thor was like the shiznit or whatever, right? and guess what? They had little showdowns. Now, some of the sometimes it's difficult to find out where is sort of embellishment, but you get a basic missionary history. And the end of the day results in larger scale conversions of these peoples away from these polytheistic gods. Now, what's interesting is there is a movement of modern day Odinists, and they're not all white supremacists, but a lot of white supremacists, especially in prison, have adopted Odinism, which has Thor in the pantheon, of course. So, right, as Odin's son. So what's crazy, my point about saying that is those guys, they're constantly upset at Christians talking about, you came in and changed our religion and had us worshiping this weak Jesus who gets hammered with nails. Meanwhile, our God carries the hammer. This is the kind of stuff right, they're about. Like, this is what they say. They feel like the warrior aspect was taken away from Northern Europeans by this weak Jesus the missionaries gave them, and they're upset about it. They view it as a negative thing, and want to return back to the ancestors' God as Northern European descendants. Right? This is part of the arguments that these Odinists make modern day. My point is, it doesn't make sense to be mad at Christians for calling out paganism in Beyonce stuff and then immediately talk about a God that Christian missionaries defeated a long time ago, that descendants, as far as ideologically, of worshipers of Odin are still upset about that today. It doesn't make any sense. We're not adopting Thor. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's a very confused argument. Thor in real life is one of the gods Christian missionaries did away with, and that essentially was wiped out to where Norway and these places became sort of Christian kingdoms because of the large-scale conversions. It doesn't make sense to put that on Christians. Because again, who's calling out the paganism of Beyonce? It's not Odinists, and it's not like general white America. It's Christians in general who got problems. So I'm confused. It's like, oh, you want to fight, and then you shoot the other guy. Who you aiming to? What's going on? But anyways,
right. It's an appeal to emotions and not to rationality at all. So the next alleged comparison that he makes is with Wolverine and Ogun. Right. So let's look at Ogun. In the Yoruba religion, Ogun is a primordial Orisha in Yoruba land. In some traditions, he is said to have cleared a path for the other gods to enter Earth using a metal axe and with the assistance of a dog. To commemorate this, one of his praise names, or Oriki, is Osin Imole, or the first of the primordial Orisha to come to Earth. He is the god of war and metals. In his earthly life, Ogun is said to be the first king of life. When some of his subjects failed to show respect, Ogun killed them and ultimately himself with his own sword. Now, again, before we do the comparison, there's a pattern here. Right? It's like here's another guy.
These guys are losers, bro.
You know what I mean? It's like he gets upset at his own followers, kills them, and offs himself. Which also shows that
sorry, he's the emo guy. He's the emo guy.
He's the emo guy.
He's the Rodney Dangerfield guy. They get no respect.
You know what I mean? He listens to a lot of Depeche Mode and The Cure, and he wears black eyeliner.
It's me fine. You see how much you like it when I'm gone. Sorry, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's cool. But again, when you know the origin, how can you subscribe to a guy that killed himself, which basically would mean that he doesn't exist anyway, even if he did? And if he was able to kill himself, then he's a contingent being. So how powerful a god is he?
But this is bizarre. If you're gonna make the argument that there's a god of metal who is ripped off in modern day comics, everyone remember, once you get past Thor, now you're just talking about modern day Marvel comic creations. We have a DC one in there as well. But speaking about Wolverine, like we're not even talking about anyone who has a legitimate history is like sort of a god. If you're gonna make a god of metal comparison, wouldn't you want to go with Magneto? Not a guy.
It would make more sense. It would make more sense.
because Wolverine had the metal encased upon his bones, and he is subjecting himself to someone else doing this to him. He's not in charge of metal. In fact, when Magneto and Wolverine meet, it's bad news for Wolverine because his whole body is filled with metal inside because he's got the metal all over his bones. He's not the god of metal. They
stripped the adamantium out of him, and then later on, they're able to put it back in.
So he's not a god of metal. Like this is something being done.
He don't make metal. They put metal in him.
He's a passive subject in this. I'm just saying, if you're gonna make these comparisons, like, hey, know your comic book facts, bro. Why don't you make it Magneto or something, you know?
Because his claws are actually bone. They laced it with adamantium. But naturally, it was bone. There was no metal in him.
So how's he a god of metal?
But you know what's funny? And I couldn't get into all of the origin of Wolverine, but part of the origin is he had a relative who was known as Dog. And you know, in the origin of Ogun, there's a dog involved. I'm like, okay, you can't, but that's such a, again, it's not, that's like, you know, Norwegians eat bread and then somewhere in Scandinavia, they eat bread. Oh, so they got it from them. I'm like, no, that's not true. But anyway, to continue with Mr. Ogun, this is a book, The Africa's Ogun, Old World and New African Systems of Thought by Sandra T. Barnes. It says, Ogun's anger comes full circle and ultimately is directed against himself. This is the dimension of Ogun's character and reveals itself in the final movement of his ritual sword dance, when he points the weapon at his own body. Hints of this self-destructive potential are found in Ogu Shango. A brief explanation of the history of this figure is necessary. In Yoruba context, Shango is the deity of lightning and thunder. As king, Shango indulged himself in an arrogant display of power, inadvertently calling down lightning on his own palace and killing his wives and children. In despair, he hung himself. Likewise, in Yoruba mythology, Ogun inadvertently kills his own townspeople and in despair commits suicide by falling on his sword.
Okay. It's hard to see how this works, but you know what? If I was gonna make an argument for Rizza Islam, I might say, well, if you look carefully, you know, Ogun, Ogun, is very similar to Logan. And Logan is the name that they use for Wolverine, and so it's Ogun, Logan.
So you gotta open your third eye, son. You see that?
Yeah. So they're telling you that it's a ripoff.
Right. So here, right, and there's too many iterations of Wolverine, but I'll say this: it says as one of Marvel's flagship characters, Wolverine has seen many adaptations and reimaginings. For example, an issue of Exiles featured a planet of Wolverines. In the Marvel Magaverse, Wolverine is even the founder of the X-Men. In Marvel Zombies, Wolverine appears zombified alongside Marvel's other major players. The Ultimate Marvel line of comics sought to ingrain Wolverine into its Ultimate X-Men title from the onset. The Old Man Logan storyline is set in an alternative timeline 50 years into the future, where the world's superhuman heroes are dead. Wolverine has aged considerably and has become a pacifist. Which iteration of this is a direct correlation of Ogun?
Well, it's funny.
Pick one. Pick a Wolverine.
You know how
Pick one.
these gods that have a lot of oral tradition behind them, there's usually multiple iterations of them as well. So
Right.
I bet we could probably ask the same question: which iteration of Ogun? Although I did one time read somewhere that there's some evidence that Ogun also liked to smoke cigars. It's a joke, bro. It's a joke.
I know.
It's a
But
joke.
it's funny though. But in the Yuba and Santeria, they use a lot of cigars in their incantations. So you're actually not far off. You know what I mean? That is part of the religion. So it's you actually was kind of on point when we said that. Let's see here. What else we got? So now we come to Batman. Let me play the. Should I play the video again for these people?
Yeah,
Let me play the video so
because
these people
they
can-
need to see.
Yeah.
They need to see what picture he uses. That's
Yeah,
very,
yeah.
very important. This
Yeah.
is probably, you know how you watch those videos and it'll have like Clint Eastwood, he cocks a gun and he's like shoot,
Right.
and they fall down. And there's always one that's like the worst. In a video full of those kinds of falls, this is probably the worst fall. The Batman.
All right, let's do this again. All right.
Peace, family, brother Reason. So I'm here. I just had to break this down because I've been seeing a lot of things, and I said, you know what? Let me go ahead and stop allowing people to Europeanize and take virtually everything that belongs to us. Find it interesting that everything that has to do with African spirituality, they have to make it look evil and demonic. Then after that, they steal it and make it their own. The reason, whatever do you mean? I'm glad you asked. Case in point. You all love Thor. Oh yes, the Europeanized version of the African god of thunder and lightning by the name of Shango. Yep, you stole it. Wolverine. Oh yes, the Europeanized version of the African god by the name of Ogun, the god of war, iron, and metal. Yep, you stole that too. You even Europeanized Batman. Oh yes, good old Bruce Wayne. No, it's actually Kamazots, the ancient mythological Mayan bat god. Kamazots literally means death bat. You stole that too. Crazy because you even have some people out here thinking that Beyonce was depicting
All right.
the ancient goat god of 1307 of the Knights Templars named Baphomet, satanic god, but she was actually depicting the ancient Egyptian or Kemetic god by the name of Hathor or Het Heru, the mother of all mothers, the god of love, music, beauty, etc. Not European, African. Peace.
All right. So, all right. He's talking about Comatose or Shamatos. All right. So, man, that looks just like Batman, doesn't it?
Man, I am surprised at how much that looks like Batman.
I mean,
it's
it looks
crazy.
exactly.
It's crazy he found a picture of this ancient god, and
Right.
somehow this ancient god, I mean, looks just like Batman. Clearly, Bob Crane ripped this off. He must have
went
seen this
to the ancient Aztecs.
and he dug this up and he said, "Yo, I'm about to make a superhero like this."
You know what I mean?
And he it's crazy. It's uncanny, to borrow a phrase from the X-Men.
It's
how
so
much
uncanny.
alike.
That's not true.
Yeah.
So here we go. In the Popol Vuh, this is the sacred text that talks about Comatose. Comatose are the bat-like monsters encountered by the Maya hero twins Hanapu and Zeplenic during their trials in the underworld of, I think, Zabala. The twins had to spend the night in the House of Bats, where they squeezed themselves into their own blowguns in order to defend themselves from circling bats. Hanapu stuck his head out of his blowgun to see if the sun had risen, and the Comatose immediately snatched his head off and carried it to the ball court to be hung up as the ball to be used by the guys in the next ball game. Yeah, that sounds exactly like Batman. Oh, and by the way, that's a statue of Comatose. An actual statue of Comatose.
Yeah, and we're going to talk a little bit about where that actual picture came that he used in a second,
Oh, yeah.
which it seems like he would have been able to see if he just,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see how he got this picture, that picture he used without understanding the source of it. That's why this seems a little dishonest.
Well, to his defense, there was a meme that was using that particular to say that was Comatose. So he
To
probably
his
got his
defense-
information from a meme.
In his defense, he used the meme without checking the facts.
Right. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, that's another side moral of the story. Do not subscribe to meme scholarship. It will do you dirty every time. So, again, here's another picture of Comatose. This is a part 3, chapter 5 of the Popol Vuh. A messenger from Ixabala in the form of a man with the wings of a bat brokers a deal between Lord Tohil and mankind, wherein mankind promises their armpits and their waist the opening of their breasts in human sacrifice in exchange for fire.
Gross.
Yeah, I remember this when I read, Detective Comics Volume 1. Batman did the same thing.
Yeah.
Not. It's like,
I only have one rule. Then that's the rule you have to break. Just wait. We haven't even dropped the hammer yet.
I'm getting there. We're getting there.
Yeah. We haven't even dropped the hammer yet on this one. So just hold up.
So the origin of Batman, right? Bruce Wayne is born to Dr. Thomas Wayne, his wife Martha, to very wealthy and charitable Gotham City socialites in 1915. Bruce is brought up in Wayne Manor in his wealthy splendor and lives a happy and privileged existence until the age of 8 when his parents are killed by a small-time criminal named Joe Chill while on their way home from a movie theater. Bruce Wayne swears an oath to rid the city of the evil that had taken his parents' lives. He engages in intense intellectual and physical training. However, he realized that these skills alone could not be enough. Criminals are superstitious and cowardly lot, Wayne remarks. So my disguise must be able to strike terror into their hearts. I must be a creature of the night, black, terrible. As if responding to his desires, a bat suddenly flies through window, inspiring Bruce to take on the persona of Batman. Yeah, that sounds just like Comatose.
Who are you? I'm Batman. Tell all your friends about me.
But with all that, right? But what about, that statue that we saw that looked just like this picture right here, right? So what's the answer to that? Well, this image does not depict an ancient sculpture made by Mayans circa 500 AD. This is actually a modern artwork created in 2014 by the artist Kimball for an exhibit at the Mexican Museum of Design, one that explored the character of Batman through the lens of Mexican creativity. So it wasn't Batman coming from Comatose. It's what if the Batman of comic book, of the DC Batman, what if he was in Mayan culture? How will we reimagine that guy?
He's literally kind of similar to the Thor thing,
right?
Where he got, he got out of order with the chronology. He's doing that again, except in a much more egregious example.
And here's the poster of the event where this took place. All right. Warner Brothers Entertainment, with the support of the Mexican Museum of Design, invited 30 artists to participate in the exhibition, quote, Batman through Mexican creativity, for the development and intervention of fiberglass sculptures of the character on the occasion of its 75th anniversary. They're celebrating the Batman of DC Comics, not Comatose. All right. And then finally, and here's the artwork, and it has a cape, by the way. That's the cape right behind it.
Rizza Islam would like that since he's caping for pagan deities.
But the viral image does not show an ancient Mayan Batman sculpture, but rather a modern piece of art created in 2014 and depicting an artist's interpretation of what a Batman sculpture could have looked like had it been created by Mayans. So, yeah. He looks crazy. Rizza Islam, man. Don't let the memes teach you, bro. Can't let the memes teach you.
I know we're not doing the whole live chat thing right now, but I do see someone here saying, why are you guys doing this when the initial statement was about Beyonce? You just trying to make these pagan deities look bad? I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but just I want to remind everybody, the reason why a video that began with Rizza Islam caping for Beyonce turned into this is because that's what he did in his video. He starts off saying, hey, everyone's trying to demonize African spirituality, but then they want to steal it for their own. You don't believe me? Check this out. So in essence, his video, I think, is trying to show, hey, check it out, you American Christians who are complaining about Beyonce, you're hypocritical, because while you complain about what you say is paganism or whatever, but was really just African spirituality, which we got to talk about here. Right. You end up adopting and stealing it anyway. We're following where he's going, and what we're doing right now is showing it's incorrect. The statement is incorrect that Batman is based off of this Aztec, or we're saying it's incorrect. And help me out. I think I missed something. Wasn't he defending African spirituality? What does the Batman one have to do with it?
Right.
That's not an example of African spirituality.
Well, I mean, he's probably thinking, well, it's melanated. So if it's melanated, it's African.
I got that, and I'm trying to follow that to be charitable. But he specifically said African spirituality.
That is
he
true.
didn't say anything about Aztecs. Is he under the impression that somehow this Aztec deity is actually ultimately African or something like that?
Probably so. Oh, and by the way, allow me to introduce you to So Fresh or So Clean. He is my answer to Judah the Lion.
I got you. Yeah.
He is my official heckler. He comes on every live stream. So I made it, vocab. I'm an official YouTuber. I too also have a heckler. So,
well, we all need hecklers.
Absolutely.
Now, I real quick, if we can spend a little more time on the bat.
Sure.
Now, I understand when you deal with a Nation of Islam member and you bring up scripture, they just start, throwing out stuff, talking about, it's been corrupt here, corrupt there, a lot of times, without really any evidence for why they say that. You know what I'm saying? It's fascinating, though, because Nation of Islam is still supposed to, in some way, have some kind of line or succession to the Bible, to scripture. And if you watch Farrakhan, I swear, I think he quotes the Bible more than the Quran.
Yes.
Definitely more than the Hadith. And the reason why I say that, it's a little odd for a Nation of Islam member to put on a cape for the bat, because Leviticus 11:13 through 19 and Deuteronomy 14:11 through 18, what do they tell us? Bats are unclean animals. These are unclean animals anyway. By the way, maybe if people would have listened to this, I'm just saying, who knows what would happen with COVID or not? I don't know. It depends what you think about how it came about. But bats have gone viral in a manner of speaking now, and Moses called it a long time ago. Hey, the bats
really cook these things.
Eating those,
We'll put that in the grill. Nah.
So it's sort of a bizarre thing, and not only that, but guess what? In Islam, which sometimes has different restrictions, modern day Jews will talk about what's kosher. In Islam, they'll talk about what is halal to eat and what is haram for forbidden. Because of Islam's rule against eating fanged beasts, they also can't eat bats. And so Quran 7:157 touches on this briefly. God has made the pure lawful and the impure unlawful. It's kind of a tautology. But you go to Sahih Muslim to see hadith about what Muhammad said, and he prohibited the eating of all fanged beasts of prey and any birds that have talons. That would, of course, include bats there. They're not able to be eaten. My point is, this is an unclean animal, but I get it. It's not really about that. It's just a bizarre thing. This whole thing is weird. And bats are not permissible for consumption in Islam. So you got an unclean animal here. My point by saying that, though, is not just like it's weird, because remember, he is like trying to defend in some way a bat deity. That's why I'm saying that. I'm not just saying, because they're unclean. I'm saying in some way he is caping for a bat type deity. Right. Even if he got the stuff wrong, his understanding of what he's doing is defending the originality of of a bat deity. And remember, he is saying, you Europeans want to demonize African traditions. In essence, saying, don't do that. But really, can any Muslim, and imagine someone who follows Tanakh, Torah, or any Muslim, would they even think to in any way ascribe to deity or divinity a bat god out of all the gods? I mean, it's not quite a pig god, but it is an unclean animal god, and it's bizarre. It's super bizarre to even think that he would do that. Doesn't he see that, a bat deity? But it's not even African anyway.
Right. And we're definitely gonna get more into that later on. But let me keep the carnage going here.
Dropping another superhero reference.
Yeah, right. So of course he mentions, Beyonce acting like Heru, right? And yeah, I think he might be right where the Baphomet isn't really Heru, right? So he might be right with that. But anyway, let's talk about this particular deity for a hot minute, which is also known as Hathor, right? Now watch this, right? You can't talk about bad, I mean, all gods outside of Yahweh is bad to worship, but when you really look at these origins, it's Looney Tunes, bro. It's Looney Tunes why anybody will subscribe to any of these gods. But anyway, let's look at Hathor. Although in time she came to be considered the ultimate personification of kindness and love, she was initially literally a bloodthirsty deity unleashed on mankind to punish humans for their sins. In ancient texts, the Book of the Heavenly Cow from the Middle Kingdom, similar to that of the biblical flood, tells of the great god Ra becoming enraged at human ingratitude and evil and releasing Hathor upon humanity to destroy them. Hathor descends on the world in a fury of destruction, killing everyone she finds and toppling their cities, crushing their homes, and tearing up fields and gardens, and so transforms into the goddess Sekhmet.
Okay, female Godzilla.
At first, Ra is pleased because humanity had forgotten him and the gifts of the gods had turned to only thinking of themselves and following after their own pleasure. He watches Sekhmet's swath of destruction with satisfaction until the other gods intervene and ask him to show mercy. They point out that Sekhmet is going too far in teaching this lesson to humanity and how soon there will be no human beings left on Earth to benefit from it.
So she's got her own berserker mode.
Yes. Ra regrets his decision and devises a plan to stop Sekhmet's bloodlust. He orders Tenenet, the Egyptian goddess of beer. The Egyptian goddess of beer. Right? He hollers at Heineken, right? And to brew a particular strong batch. It then has the beer. Like, I'm not making this up. This is actual what the book, The Heavenly Cow, says.
It's all make a particularly strong batch of your moonshine.
It then has the beer dyed red and delivered to Dendera. Sekhmet, by this time, is crazed with thirst for more blood. And when she comes upon the blood red beer, she quickly seizes it and begins drinking. She becomes drunk, falls asleep, and wakes up as Hathor, the benevolent.
Oh, she's a happy drunk. You got angry drunks,
right.
happy drunk. She's a happy. I always like happy drunks better, so that's cool.
Humanity has spared destruction, and their former tormentor became their greatest benefactress.
And we owe it all to red beer. If she was really an expert on blood, it seems like she would have smelled right away. Hey, this ain't got that iron in it.
Shout out to Roxby. We're looking out.
Oh, anyways.
So yeah, so this is a god who was sent from another god to destroy humans. Got really into it and couldn't stop itself. So they had to make beer, but a strong batch of beer. So they went to the god of beer, right? Heineken, Miller, genuine draft, whatever. Dyed it blood. So they tricked the god and thinking it's blood, got drunk, and wakes up as Hathor.
She's like, somebody spiked the blood.
Right. So it's like, again, why would anyone subscribe to this thing? Like, this is a death angel. You know what I mean? And the way you could stop it was getting it lit with beer. It's ridiculous. But anyway.
Well, what's interesting, though, this comes to a serious point. Some of what I've done and some of what I'll do is looking at traditional Islamic sources. We understand that Nation of Islam's relationship to Orthodox Islam is confused and conflicted. But one thing I think it's important to do is to sort of constantly hold their feet to the fire in this regard, to hold up the Islamic sources and see which ones they're going to sort of decide to pick and choose from, and constantly being really trying to have them sort out just how orthodox or not they are and let them see what they say. With all that being said, though, Wesley Muhammad, who is the apologetic heavyweight of the Nation of Islam, has apparently, and this is from some of my conversations of Abu, so shout out to him, been trying to rework in the mindset of the Nation of Islam an idea. And so it's like this remix. And here's what I mean by that. He has done apologetic work that has been trying to show that some of the gods in different African forms of spirituality
It's really a
are
lot.
actually, yes, are actually in some way compatible or sort of remixes of Allah, or go along with something that Wesley Muhammad says that he says is positive. He claims the Nation of Islam democratizes deity. Because, you know, hey, you could be a god, I could be a god type of thing is what they got going on, which, of course, is different than Orthodox Islam because shirk is the highest sin. They accuse Christians of shirk because they say we associate partners with Allah by making the Son equal to the Father. But, of course, we're not associating partners with Allah in that way because we're not assuming Unitarianism, it's Trinitarian. So you're not doing that, using those terms that way, using Allah to understand to be God. We're not doing that. But if you're going to accuse anyone of shirk, certainly would be those who basically democratize deities, Wesley Muhammad says. But what has been happening behind the scenes, it seems, is that Wesley Muhammad has done this apologetic work to make Nation of Islam folks more friendly towards certain African deities and pantheons, as if that's what they are. Now, honestly, it seems like it's all malarkey, hogwash.
Well, he calls it Mayotic Islam.
What's he call it?
He calls it Mayotic Islam. Islam.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay,
Yeah,
I see
yeah.
like kind of the official
He tries to
term.
retrofit Islam back into further and further back into time.
I didn't. But I mean, Muslims do that too. Actually, you know, they claim Jesus was a Muslim, the apostles were a Muslim. You know, were Muslims going all the way back. But it's interesting to see Nation of Islam do that. But it's interesting why they think they've got to go to, say, for example, West Africa, and try to put it back there. So what have you seen him do about that? Because I didn't even know everyone kind of
you know,
knew
he used to deal a lot with Sanetta and these dudes, you know. So he would do a lot of these presentations, and he was trying to be a bridge builder between these communities. And that's why he would do these lectures about how, you know, Mayat and all these different Egyptian deities are really just earlier iterations of Allah. So it's all the same. So if you're worshiping Ra, you're worshiping Allah. If you're worshiping Hathor, that's just another attribute of Allah. It's really Allah. It's all Allah. And so he'll call it Mayotic Islam. Yeah. So yeah. So he's been doing that for a while. So I wonder if sort of that's part of where, instead of understanding components of Beyonce's presentation as being legitimately kind of given the thumbs up to pagan deities in a polytheistic system, he's sort of defensive about it. Right. I think that's where it comes from. Because if we have time, I don't know what's next. Let's go. Well, the thing I want you to go into, because this is definitely your wheelhouse. For him to claim to be a Muslim, right, and to cape basically for other deities. It's like, isn't that weird for a Muslim to do? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of literature in the Quran, in the Hadiths, that goes against what he's doing in this video. And I was wondering if you could just really share some of that with us.
Yeah. So, you know, when you talk about, shout
out Liza, base.
Yeah, no doubt. When you have multiple gods in a pantheon, you know, that's polytheism. It's more than one god, more than one divine person, however you want to look at it. The Arabs, prior to Muhammad, as a general rule, as far as a people went, were massive polytheists by the Islamic sources themselves, and from what little we can determine from pre-Islamic Arabian Peninsula. There's unfortunately not a lot there, as we wish there was. But one thing that Allah claims it was Muhammad's prophetic mission was to teach Arabs who were polytheists monotheism. Quran, look at 6:137, 29:41, 43:15, and 16. And that's why Jews and Christians are sort of given a special place, in a sense, as people of the book, different from the polytheists, those who worship more than one God, in a good way. Although what's fascinating is you go along the way that you have a situation where those groups of people, especially Christians, are also now called polytheists. Specifically in the case of Christians, essentially tritheists, worshiping three gods, which is, of course, not true. Right. And so this is a fascinating thing because even now, Muslim reformers have a problem with Sufi, which is a certain sect of Islam, because some Sufi will seek intercession in essence of those they view as saints and venerate tombs. So like Muslim reformers view that as too close to shirk, as basically being polytheistic. So when you really look at the Islamic teaching on polytheism, you know, it's a real clear thing that this is not to be accepted. Polytheism. There are no authorities other than God. Let me read some Quranic passages so you can see.
Go for it. Go for it.
So let's see here. Let's this actually. So this is from an article by a Muslim apologist. How does Islam look at polytheism? And they bring out a number of things that I'd like to bring out. This one's from the Quran. If there were in the heavens and the earth other gods besides Allah, there would have been confusion in both. But glory to Allah, the Lord of the throne, high is He above what they attribute to Him. That's 21:22. So there are no other gods. Behold, each god would have taken away what he had created, and some would have lorded it over others. Glory to Allah, He is free from the sort of things they attribute to Him. That's 23:91. So you can't have more than one God in essence. Also, 16:51. Take not worship two gods, for He's just one Allah. Then fear me and me alone. Oh, like, so how can we now? This is convoluted practice where they're kind of caping for these African spiritualities, but look at what the Quranic sources say. But this is where the question is what's the real relationship between the Nation of Islam and the Quran? But because you call yourself the Nation of Islam and say the Quran is a book for you, then we need to deal with that. Here's another one. If Allah touches you with hurt, there is none can remove it but He. So you can't have a situation where one God is going on a bloodlust rage, killing everybody, and another one fixes it. There's only one God. If He designs some benefit for you, there is none can keep back His favor. He causes it to reach whomsoever of His servants He pleases, and He is the all-forgiving, most merciful. That's 10:107. There are no authorities other than God. Listen to this. Did I not enjoin on you, O ye children of Adam, that you should not worship Satan, for that he was to you an enemy avowed? That's 36:60. That, and if you look at the Muslim commentators on this, what they're saying is, when you start worshiping these other gods, you end up worshiping actual like demons behind them. Let me actually say what the Muslim apologist here says from this article at dawaskills.com. In fact, the Quran clarifies that one of the dangers is that people may end up worshiping Satan. So when we talk about the Church of Satan or Satan worshipers, it is something that the Quran warns about over 1,400 years ago. In the words of God Himself, it says, there's a very clear position taken here. And they quote the verse. In fact, this is all supplemented by the saying of Prophet Muhammad, in which he equated the use of magic or belief in it with becoming a disbeliever. In other words, the resort to magic, especially black magic, can amount to disbelief in Allah. In fact, many times people resort to superstition or sorcery because somehow they feel they can seek refuge in those spirits or in their protection. Now, actually, Christians wouldn't disagree with actually much part of that of the article when it comes to these Muslim apologists that they're writing, because there's similar things that are said in the New Testament, by the way, years before. And so you look at this, and you're like, yeah, because Islam is supposed to be monotheistic. It's Unitarian instead of Trinitarian, but we're both monotheists in that sense. So coming back to the point, you look at this is from Quranic sources. We haven't even got into Hadith or anything. And you ask yourself, why is it that someone that in any way is supposed to hold the Quran in high regard, or thinks that Muhammad way back then was ultimately a prophet of their religion, would in any way want to go to bat for pagan deities? Because instead he should be like, hey, good work, Christians. You're calling out where kind of a kudos to paganism, kudos to polytheism is seeping into the culture. Instead, because of some of the strange oddities specific to the Nation of Islam, he takes this other path and claims, the Europeans demonize African traditions. Muhammad was demonizing African traditions and any other polytheistic system way before. And that's just the polytheism part. If we have time, I'll get into how Muhammad kind of even demonizes Africans themselves. And I rest my case.
I think we should do that. 'Cause again, it's not just different deities, but it's specific African deities. Like, he was caping for African deities. So how does Muhammad, who's supposed to be his Christ, even though it's really Master Farad, right? In their eyes. But how does Muhammad talk about just Africans in general?
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. By the way, let me give one more article from an Islamic source, al-islam.org. Look up the article. It's a 40-minute read, but it'll really help you understand the Islamic position on polytheism and monotheism. It's called Polytheistic Beliefs with Respect to Allah. Very detailed and really gives you what understanding should be. Now, let's take a look here at some views of Muhammad and those who came after him, who were prominent Muslims, about the color black itself, and then actually Africans. The reason why I mentioned the color black itself, if there was like these incidental statements, it'd be one thing. But anyone that has dealt with a Nation of Islam member, and they even show this in the Malcolm X movie, in the kind of prison conversion sequence,
Right.
like looking up black in the definition, and European dictionaries made it look bad, and that kind of thing. Well, if you're gonna do that, then let's do that. Abu Dawood 2839. Kill every jet black dog, for they are more mischievous. Muhammad said himself, so this is a hadith of Muhammad saying this, kill all the black dogs because they're bad. No explanation. He didn't say kill the white dogs. Muslim number 1032. The black dog is a devil. Bukhari. Now, so just the color. Now, watch. It's gonna get worse as we go on. Bukhari. So, Sahih al-Bukhari is a hadith collection that it's accepted really amongst. It's one that it's not a weak hadith collection. It's considered one of the strongest. Bukhari, volume 9, book 87, hadith 163. Here, Muhammad, and he's describing the sources, the prophet, says he interpreted a dream he had of a black woman as a coming epidemic. Wow. Meaning he viewed the black woman in his dream as there's about to be some stuff going down, right? Sunan an-Nasi 5076, next hadith we're going to go to. In this, there's a guy, and I believe he had been conquered. Abu, and I don't pronounce the Arabic well, Kuhafa. He had all white hair, and Muhammad instructed that this guy had had his hair changed. And listen to what he said. Change this, referring to the man's hair, with something, but avoid black. So it's like, hey, this dude can get his hair done. Let's change his hair color in any way, but can't be black. Sunan Ibn Majah, volume 1. Muhammad says, hey, don't marry women for beauty or money, but marry them for their religion. But listen to the way he says it. So that's the paraphrase of what is preceding this. Because what he's going to do is say, like, you want to marry them for their piety. But listen to the way he put, this is offensive language, but listen to what it says. A slit-nosed black slave is preferable if pious. So a slit-nosed black slave is, if pious, is preferable.
So a thin nose.
I think, I mean, it seems like just making, some kind of jab at, I guess, perceived African phenotypical features, right. But the idea is like I don't like explaining this. He's basically saying, okay, if she's pious, even a black slave with this nose will do. Right. Saying like, because it's all about piety. Right. But like he's kind of given like in his mind the worst like case example. Right. The
piety redeems the horridness of our blackness.
It's like even this one would be better than someone with money or power, even if they look like this.
Right.
Like slave. And notice you find constant conflation with black and slave in Islamic sources, nonstop. Ibn Hazm. Now we're getting outside of what Muhammad said. And to key Islamic figures. This one, 994 to 1064. Listen to what he said here. The most devout is the noblest, even if he be a negress bastard. Wow. I don't know how to pronounce the word, but it's saying like a bastard of a black woman.
Right.
So that's what it's trying to say. Like, so again, notice this theme of, hey, if they're pious, it's cool. Like, and then they give the worst case example.
Right.
So you can be devout and noble even if you're a black bastard. That's what this is saying. Now, this is not the end. So, gosh, I hate reading all these. But what do we do? Okay.
Let's go.
So Al-Jahiz, 781 to 869. These are prominent Muslims, okay? These aren't random folks. These are prominent Muslims in Islamic history. And what I'm going to do is here, there is a video I'll reference that has a lot of these sources because I'll give a source if somebody wants it, but you can find these on The Unknown History of Islam, The Islamic View of Black People with Jay Smith and my buddy from my seminary days, Al-Fadi. And they bring all the sources so you can look these up because it takes a while. But check this out. We know that the Zanj, Z-A-N-J, and what a Zanj is an African black person. That's what a Zanj is in the sources. So it's saying we know that the African black people are the least intelligent and the least discerning of mankind and the least capable of understanding the consequences of actions.
Wow.
But he doesn't stop there. He says that this is the background to the saying here of this guy. He's saying all people prize eloquence. That's why they give long speeches. And watch, again, you'll notice this tendency in Islam to always like make the black example the worst example. So he says the Zanj, that's black Africans, they prize eloquence, quote, despite their dimness, their boundless stupidity, their obtuseness, their crude perceptions, and their evil dispositions. Notice black dogs more mischievous, black Africans, evil dispositions.
Right.
Same guy, Al-Jahiz. Like the crow among mankind are the African blacks, for they are the worst of men and the most vicious of creatures in character and temperament. And by the way, the source for this, and Al-Fadi did this live on the show as an Arab speaker, because it just has Kitab al-Hawan. And if you look into Islamic sources, you end up knowing Kitab means book, but I didn't know the next part. It means in Arabic, the book of the animal.
Wow.
Ibn Qutayba, 828, 889. Blacks are ugly and misshapen because they live in a hot country.
Wow.
And I'll read one more, even though I could read more from different.
Isn't Arabia a hot country, though? I'm saying.
Well, you know what's funny though? I had some backup quotes if we wanted to not only show the constant inferiority given to specifically black African peoples within Islamic sources, which makes it weird to be a black man in Islam, even Nation of Islam, because you got to deal with these, because It's the Quran, it's the Hadith, and then it's all these folks who come after. It can't just be aberrations. You know what I'm saying? Check this out. There's also Arab supremacy, and I've got a couple quotes on that, but let me read this one last one. Al-Muqaddisi, 945 to 1000 AD. He's a medieval Muslim geography. Of the neighbors of the Buja, Maqdisi had heard that, quote, there is no marriage among them. The child does not know his father, and they eat people, but God knows best. As for the Zanj, remember Zanj is black Africans, they are people of black color, flat noses, kinky hair, and little understanding or intelligence. I mean, could a KKK member be any more happy with these kinds of statements? You know what I'm saying? Like, think about the kind of supremacist and racist literature we're looking at from a long line. And I'll end it with also latent Arab supremacy frequently found in Islamic sources. Al-Tabari, 839 to 923. Arabs are the most noble people in lineage, the most prominent and the best in deeds. Ibn Taymiyyah, 1263 to 1328. If the child is not of the race of Arabs, then he is definitely an owned slave, according to the scholars. And it goes on and on and on and on. So, Islam may want a cape for African spiritualities, but he's one of the first people in any way holding to the Quran and claiming title Muslim in some way to do so. This shows a few things. Number one, the massive disconnect between the Nation of Islam, which is really a 20th century invented, fabricated religion from the mind of Fard and those who came after him. The massive disconnect between that and actual, not only African spirituality, if you want to go there, but Orthodox Islam of any type or stripe. And it shows really Islam is not the black man's religion.
Oh, far from it. It's the antithesis to the black man. It's like,
so he wants to jump on those he's saying, you know, Europeans, this and that. First of all, his examples were all wrong. But then is he not looking at the real culprit? And so So we have quite a few problems here when we talk about it. And if we extended this on, we would really have a conversation about historically the lack of true tolerance for any kind of other views within Islamic society, directly drawn from the primary sources themselves. And my point by that is that if we look at the real lack of true tolerance of any kind, it's odd then for then now over here, whoosh, because we're talking about Muhammad himself. When we talk about that, that's where it truly begins. Rizza Islam being like, hey, you know, these African spiritualities actually, I mean, that's not derived from the sources at all. Just read Surah 9 alone. I mean, that's not the only place, but just read, you'll see, not so tolerant. So how is Rizza Islam holding the Quran in one hand and holding Beyonce's record in another hand, right? You know what I'm saying? How is that the case? Yeah, it doesn't go together.
Nah, not at all. I mean, it's a combination of bad thinking and hypocrisy, you know, because you're supposed to be defending Allah and Allah alone. You know, when you make your Hajj, isn't your Hajj, you know, there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is his messenger, right? That's the pledge you make. So it's like you're going against the very pledge that allegedly you've sworn to, right? So it's like, how are you even a Muslim at this point? You know, so I'm looking at the chat. My heckler is doing what he does best, or she, because Sofesh has yet to tell us his or her gender yet. But so he's misquoting Heiser in the chat. That's his new thing now for some reason. Not knowing that everybody here has read Heiser, but that's another story. So yeah, I mean, it's. And again, the reason why we're doing it is not just because, you know, we don't like Rizza Islam. He seems like a very smart and bright guy, you know. But again, he has, you know, a large following, and people they have his ear. They listen to him, you know. And we have to make sure that as Christians, we don't allow falsehood to be speaking in any way. So this is our way of defending, you know, our gospel, because he's trying to, you know, it's just a weird, and honestly, he's shooting himself in the foot constantly in this video. It's so weird, you know, because he thinks he's defending blackness, but as a Muslim, as vocab has shown, Islam is not about defending blackness at all, you know. So it's crazy.
Yeah, it's a problem. Now, I mean, it's like it'd be interesting to be able to have a conversation of what he's really trying to say, because where does he, as a Nation of Islam member, where does he think? I really want to, you know what? I'm trying to really understand more like the impetus behind this and understanding more the way he thinks these deities that he specifically brought out, the way that they connect in regards to what he understands his version of Islam to be. I really am trying to understand that more. That's what I really would have liked to.
I think it's and I said this before. It's the whole Issa Rae thing. Issa Rae, when she went to the Oscars, they asked her who are you rooting for to win, and she's like, I'm rooting for everybody black. And I think for the Nation of Islam, it's become that it's a synchronistic, like we're gonna rock with anything that has anything to do with black empowerment. And we'll squeeze it in somehow into our Islam. So now there's meiotic Islam all of a sudden. So now ancient Kemet has a relation with Islam. So if you're from the conscious community, we've created inroads for you to associate with us. You know, like you said earlier, you know, well, Christ, you know, he's a Muslim because he submitted to the will of God. So therefore, you know, so you could be a Christian and be part of the nation. Like I actually recently heard a Nation of Islam member say that you could be a Christian and be part of the nation. So they're really lowering the standard because they need more people to be attached to their movement. So they're making it easier now. So that's why I feel like the syncretism, and then with Wesley Muhammad being the academic arm of the movement, he's given it a intellectual spin, you know, showing how all roads lead to Allah, basically, you know, so.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't even get into. I know Wesley Muhammad also tries to do a spin on this, but how, you know, Muhammad and those who wrote about him constantly try to highlight what they viewed it as his fair skin. You know, it's just a fact. But I mean,
Well, he does. I saw a lecture. He talks about the white bull. I think of Hinduism, and makes a correlation between him and Master Farad, because Master Farad is, basically white. So it's like, no, he came as a white bull because that's like the final form of his divinity, and then he became Master Farad. Yeah, he made a spin on that too. It's crazy.
Final form.
Yeah. So real quick, vocab. Hold up. So this guy, Heiser confirmed. Well, you misspelled Heiser, first of all, and confirmed sons of God. Yeah, that's the divine council. It's not a pantheon. That's what Israel saw. Israel did not subscribe to a pantheon. When they fell from God, did they worship multiple deities? Absolutely. But they were never supposed to. They were supposed to worship Yahweh. Yahweh is the one and only God. He is the Lord of hosts. He has the entourage that he rocks out with. And he calls them the B'nai Elohim. All right? Thank you very much. Anyway, go ahead.
You know what? No, I'm glad you answered that. It's also, there's the very real reality of Islamic incursion into Africa.
Right. I'm glad you mentioned that, because
as this happens, these Muslims aren't like, hey, check out these Africans we're conquering. They're kind of like already there. Their gods are pretty much like Islamic, so we don't need to conquer it or make them pay the jizya and all that.
Right.
They're not saying that.
Right.
They're not saying, I mean, that's a real thing. Even just one book. This is on Yale University Press. Islamic Imperialism, a History. Really good book. And you can get whole books that just focus on the Islamic incursion into Africa alone, upending. You talk about demonizing the gods. That's exactly what is done. And talk about, like demonizing their gods and then being like, yo, take this. I mean, it's not whitewashing, but it's sort of Arabicizing. You know what I'm saying? This is so it's like a strange thing to kind of like, does he not realize that? I mean, I don't know. I imagine they have their own convoluted spin on the Islamic invasions.
I'm sorry, vocab. Let me handle this real quick. El Elyon means God Most High. Okay, it's the Most High God. That's El Elyon. Okay, all right. I'm sorry, vocab. Continue.
No. That was actually the last. I'm just saying, it'll be interesting to hear what the NOI's like current response is.
I meant to ask you, Boko Haram, right? That's a Islam terrorist organization in Africa, and these are Africans, right?
Yeah.
Who subscribe to
Nigeria.
Have they ever read any of these things that you just shared? Do you think they've been privy to any of that?
I mean, when all these kinds of passages, when I brought up, the way apologists answer them is like Islamic apologists is like mind blowing. And so, I don't know what they've heard or haven't heard, you know what I'm saying? But like, I do know that you get all kinds of bizarre interpretations on these. But generally what I find is, especially Black Muslims, they're really pretty clueless about this stuff. They're not aware of this stuff. I think Nation of Islam became sensitive to it because in response to their claim that essentially Islam is the black man's religion, people were brought up, will look at this racism in Islam and anti-Africanism and seem to be prizing of Arabs over all others, and perhaps even some kind of preference for those who are fair-skinned Arabs, kind of bringing that reality out. So Wesley Muhammad has had to do a bunch of work and spin. And I think Nation of Islam might be kind of ahead of the curve on answering that. But generally what I find is there's not an awareness. There's not an awareness. Like, when you say to a Black Muslim, Islamic sources refer to Black folks as raisin heads. And they have this whole thing. It's like, well, that's, they have this whole way that they try to spin out of it. And but a lot of times they don't believe it, that you're telling the truth about some of it. You have to bring it and show them, like, yo, check this out. Like, look at this. And then, like, some of the people I brought up later, they'd be like, well, that's not from the prophet himself or from confirmed hadiths. They would like discount all these Islamic leaders. Not that that's not the only verses I brought out, but they would do that as well. And they would probably bring out common ones that get brought out in relationship to me saying that there's an intolerance. They would say, well, the Quran says there's no compulsion of religion. And then there's a whole conversation about that, which is, first of all, that's a ripoff from a non-Islamic source. But second of all, that verse has been abrogated. And Islamic scholars tell you it's been abrogated, and no one really disagrees it's been abrogated. And it's no longer, it's not a binding thing. And when some Islamic scholars say it's not been abrogated, there's no compulsion in Islam or in religion is the way they say it. They'll say this simply means there's no compulsion for us to force you to do wrong, but it's our religious duty to keep you out of impurity and to convert you to Islam. So they would even interpret there's no compulsion in religion, just saying we're not going to make you do anything wrong. Not that they're not going to forcibly try to convert you. And the reason I know this is because I read some of the Islamic sources of apologists speaking about these verses today, and you can see exactly what they say. So, like, these snippets that are given a response are very inadequate in relationship to what Islamic apologists. So, what does Boko Haram know? I don't know, but I think a lot of it is this is a great way to get power over people, get some guns, and be able to get a bunch of girls and rape them. I mean, I'm being, to be frank, I mean,
right.
Do not Boko Haram. You talk about them kidnapped 276 schoolgirls in 2014, and that's just I mean, who does that? What religion of any group does that? You know what I'm saying? Like, who kidnaps a bunch? You know what I'm saying? But this is like common for these Islamic groups that are described as terrorist groups. You know, so
do you feel like the NOI is selling a false bill of goods when they claim Islam?
Yeah, they're not Islamic in any way. So, like, we did the boom boom room skip. People can have problem with it, whatever. But it's actually very serious issues being discussed in a comedic fashion. And a big one to anyone really listening to the skit with the Nation of Islam and the member who played by John McCrae meeting Muhammad is how un-Islamic the Nation of Islam doctrine is. And Muhammad brings that out in that conversation, how utterly Islamic the whole thing is. And even some of the disconnect between, this is a black man's religion and what Muhammad really taught, which is that if you even say Muhammad was a black man, you're worthy of the death penalty. Wow. And so that's why at the end of the video, Nation of Islam, which clearly would say Muhammad was a black man, he says Muhammad, John McCrae's character goes, Muhammad was blackity black. And then that's why Muhammad blows him up, is because he deserves the death penalty because he's calling Muhammad a black man.
Wow.
So I do think there's a massive bill of goods. And, it seems like it's almost like it's hard to try to understand what the average Nation of Islam member really does with this and understand. I don't think most understand it, but I think a lot have bought into the massive spin that Wesley Muhammad, because it was done before them, but I don't think anyone's done it as expertly or proficiently as him. I think he's done the massive spin. Now, he's not ever going to be the media personality though on the level of like Ariza Islam, or you got your guy, Brother Ben X, guys who have kind of mastered those arts. But he is I think he's like the intellectual heavyweight behind a lot of some of these ideas that they're putting in popular form, I think. But yeah, man, it's definitely selling a false bill of goods, man.
Right. Shout out to Shawnee Miller for taking care of cleaning up the neighborhood in the chat right there. I appreciate that. They're having their own internal debate here with So Fresh So Clean. Yeah, it's funny. Oh, and by the way, he's an atheist, or she's an atheist, or whatever it is, it's an atheist. But yeah, it has an Ankh as its avatar. So go figure.
Yeah, life everlasting.
Right.
On atheism.
Yeah, basically. And Mr. Phil Fox. Because I'm black, y'all. I'm blackity black because I'm black, y'all. Yeah, man.
Yeah, John killed it. But like a lot of the stuff we actually bring out a lot of stuff that Wesley Muhammad says in that that video because of that. So it's a fascinating day. People, I think sometimes people want to count out the Nation of Islam because they see it's not quite in its heyday, but it's definitely a mistake. Right. Like we really gotta understand the influence and the fact that we don't, put it frankly,
they're the blueprint. They're the blueprint to these other upstart, other belief systems. They looking at Nation of Islam and they want to be that. And I'll say it like IUIC. They're definitely vying for that kind of, you know, longevity and being that polished and that disciplined. You know what I mean? So I feel like they're mimicking the nation in that manner. You know?
Nope. Yep, exactly right, man.
Yeah.
So well, you see how Christian apologists got our work cut out for us, because, you know, there's like a whole thing to do of people interacting with like Wesley Muhammad's, we could call it, you know, scholarship, but that work, but at a detailed level, you know, that needs to be done. There's a whole level. We're just doing the 59-second video right now, though, you know.
And Wesley is a smart dude, man. He's not a, you know, he's not an intellectual pushover. That's a smart guy. You know, he has some degrees behind him. You know what I mean? So we definitely have to make sure that we are able to meet him at that level. You know, so I definitely agree with that. And he's a very charismatic dude too. You know what I mean? So that always helps. So but yeah, I think we done justice to this video, sir. I think we once again fact checked Mr. Riza Islam. I would love for him to respond to this video if he ever comes across us, you know. And if you ever want to sit down with us and have this conversation about this particular video, I think me and Vocab would be more than happy to have a nice cordial discussion with you about these things. I think the community would learn a lot from that if that was to ever occur. I'm assuming, Vocab, that you wouldn't mind sitting down with Riza. I mean, I know I'm just putting it out there, but
yeah, I'd do that. Whoa, you know.
Yes, sir.
What's wild is looking at the long posts underneath his video. We have, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's rather long. We have to put down our emotions and pick up our logic. Although most of the music industry is definitely demonic, along with the fashion, movie, and film industry as well. This, however, was indeed cultural and not demonic. A lot of the music industry is demonic, but this Beyonce stuff, that's not demonic.
Nah, just, you know, having, you know, gods, you know, bloodlust, killing everybody and then killing themselves. That's not demonic. No.
I mean, if you don't think this is, just watch watch the wonderful video that Nefernetti did on this Beyonce stuff. Stop looking through the eyes of European thinkers and listening to white people about everything. We have to learn our history and get closer to who we are as a people. Hey, Riza Islam should stop listening to white people. Stop listening to Fard Muhammad.
That's terrible.
P.S. This was not demonic, but Disney is. I'm sorry. It's kind of funny, bro. He's like, yo, this was a demonic, but, you know, it's on Disney Plus. And Disney Plus, now that's demonic. So, I don't know what other shows. Finding Nemo, that's demonic, but Black is King, that's cool. I'm sorry. This is kind of funny. There's no denying that. So there's no denying Disney's demonic, but you could deny that this video and then all the imagery. Also, I'm from Compton and a member of the Nation of Islam. So then it just goes into his bio.
What does Compton got to do with anything?
That's what I'm saying. It's funny. I never really looked, but bro, this is like a rather long. I know this is all underneath the video.
I didn't even bother reading that. I just looked at the video. Wow.
Like, he was like, let me write this paragraph. That has nothing really. Oh my goodness, it really has nothing to do with this. Wait, what? Whoa, hold on, wait. Let me hold on. I'm a real brother who still lives with our people, so I pray we get more sense. I don't allow Europeans to continue lying on our people. What was depicted here was the Egyptian Kemetic god Hathor or Het-Haru, not Baphomet. Simple. Now, Disney is demonic. Hollywood, demonic. Most of these industries, demonic. I also heard that her and Jay-Z were on Jeffrey Epstein's flight, which is something I am now researching.
So, shouldn't you research that before you did the video?
I didn't really look at it.
You know what happened? I think he did the video and then found out that maybe I kind of jumped the gun with these guys. So let me hedge my bet to say, oh, no, well, I'm doing this other research to see if they really are demonic. But until then, watch this video.
This video has 237,000 views.
Wow.
And underneath it, this joint has 2,755 comments. Wow. It's weird, though. Like, this is the picture he's using to say not demonic. It's like, out of all the pictures, bro.
That is the most demonic thing you can find. And then don't look behind the curtain. You know what I mean? But it's like, it makes no sense, bro. It makes no sense. But listen, this was good. And you definitely brought the fire, as I knew you would. And this is what we do. We fact check, we debunk, and, we warn people that, just because somebody has they're charismatic and they're impassioned and even sincere does not mean that they cannot also be wrong. So Vocab, before you go, sir, what's on your itinerary? What can we expect from you soon?
Let's see. Wednesday, I'm talking with Mark Clark, who is a co-author of Lights in the Sky and Little Green Men. It came out from Reasons to Believe, and it's a book about looking at UFO phenomenon and stuff like that. And he has a really interesting background. He works with Reasons to Believe, which is a creation science think tank and research organization. And he's going to be on Wednesday live. Other than that, look for a lot of shorter videos on the channel. We got some really dope kind of volunteer of editors working to kind of make up for the whole demonetization hit that we took and is still greatly affecting us. Things are coming up. We're accomplished about 25% of our goal on Patreon to be able to make up for the monthly shortfall from them demonetizing the channel. And the big thing I'll tell people about real quick, and this is it, is the first full week of September, BK, we're doing a video series that has a Street Fighter 2 and indeed even Bruce Lee theme that's going to be showing a multi-part video series of our interactions with GMS leadership there in New York when we were in Harlem by Morningside Park last year around that same time. So I haven't actually put out the footage yet, and we finally had a chance to get it edited, gave it a Street Fighter 2 theme. Pretty good footage. You're going to see Adam Coleman, John McCrae, me, David Wood, Sam Shamoon, all interacting with GMS leadership with kind of a fun vibe to it. And I think people are going to look forward to it. We're finishing up the series now. It's going to be like 6 videos in a row. And they're all done as far as their first draft. Could release it now, but I'm going to get a couple things a little tighter. And that's going to be boom, 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 like that. The beginning, I think, with Labor Day or the day before, coming up in September. So definitely look for that because that's going to be happening quicker than you may think, people. So that's what's up.
Nice. That's what's up, man. Any last words you would like to say before we sign off?
Nah, thanks for, inviting me, man. You're doing real good work, and the level of, quality and stuff, everything you got going on here on this channel is impressive. It's very, very amazing. And, I hope that guys like Riz Islam understand, like, we joke because we have fun, but we're actually trying to do real work here, and so it's kind of light. It's never personal. Right. You know what I mean? It's not like that. You notice it's not like, oh, stupid. Like, we're looking into this, we're doing work, but we're gonna have fun doing it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And he goes aggressive and goes hard. So I think he can handle a little bit of that in kind of a clean way, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely.
And understand that's what's going on. And so
absolutely.
I hope people can understand that and get with that and really take serious what was said, because there was a lot of information we dropped today. A lot.
Yeah, it was quite a bit. So, Mr. Riz Islam, man, there's an open door to the platform. If you ever want to, sit down and talk with us, please, we'll be cordial. We're going to have fun, and I'm sure you're going to have fun with us, and that's cool. And, we have some barbershop talk while we talk about some serious issues. So, with that being said, Vocab Malone, BK Apologist, signing off. Peace.